One of my favorite shows to put in the background while I work is Ancient Aliens. I love it, not because I believe any of it, but because some of the ideas they present are very interesting to think about. What if the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids? What if the Egyptians were just the first ones to find them? What if Antarctica was Atlantis? And what if escaping Atlanteans resettled in every continent, built up their civilizations, and then disappeared? These are very interesting questions to ponder, but what do they have to do with A Song of Ice and Fire? Well, bits and pieces of the lore in Planeteros prompt some of these very same questions. Black, oily stone, scattered all across Westeros and Essos, were found by early settlers, and consequently, those settlers built up on top of them. No one knows how these stone structures were made or who made them, but I speculate they were made either by ancient aliens or an ancient and technologically advanced civilization that mysteriously disappeared. What's up, friends? This is Jess from Games of Power, and welcome to Games of Thrones History and Lore show, where I cover some of the most interesting, in my opinion, stories of history and lore that we find on Planeteros. And today we'll be going through oily black stone, the potentially alien-made building material in Planeteros. With that said, let's get into it. Of unknown origin, black stone has been used in the construction of several massive structures across Planeteros. Differing from the drier Valyrian dragonstone, many describe it as greasy and oily. Before I go over the black stone structures, I do want to first preface with this. There is still very little information available to us regarding the origin of this material. Just like our own history, the history of Planeteros is incomplete and sometimes unreliable, so I'm hoping to provide you with the best information available regarding this subject. Now, let's talk about these black stone structures. The first black stone structure we'll be discussing is the sea stone chair found in the Iron Islands. As the Ironborn tell it, the sea stone chair was carved out of a block of oily black stone found on the shores of Old Wick by first men when they came to the Iron Islands. Who made it and how it got there is unknown, but a few maesters have theories. Maester Kurth believes the stone was left by people across the Sunset Sea. Archmaester Herod believes it was created by the people of Iron Islands living there before the first men. Maester Theron suggests it was created by the Deep Ones. Without going into too much of a tangent, if you aren't already familiar, the Deep Ones are a speculated ancient race of half-men that came about when creatures from the deep mated with human women. And fun fact, priests of the Drowned God believe that the Iron Men aren't descended from the first men, but rather from the Deep Ones, ultimately being related to their drowned god from underneath the sea. Of course, the Maesters of Westeros reject this idea, but still very interesting to think about. Moving on to our next structure we'll be discussing today is one that's found on the Isle of Toads, the Toad Stone. An area that I haven't talked much about in the history and lore videos. The Isle of Toads is an isle, a part of the Basilisk Isle, a group of islands off the northwestern coast of Sothorios on the Summer Sea. The Toad Stone is an ancient idol and stands 40 feet tall. It's described as being crudely carved into the semblance of a giant toad of malignant aspect. Stories have been told that the people of this island have webbed appendages and reminiscent of fish. It's interesting to me that these people are described as fish-like because of how similar it sounds to the story of the sea stone chair, where this oily black stone is somehow related or linked to fish people. Now, moving on to our next structure, Yin. Yin is an ancient and ruined city found in Sothorios that has puzzled maesters for years. It's fascinating because the city is made of blocks of black stone that would need at least a dozen elephants to move just one. No one has lived in this city for thousands of years, but somehow it hasn't been overtaken by the jungle surrounding it. Groups have tried to resettle the city unsuccessfully, so it continues to live deep in the jungle with no inhabitants living within its walls. walls. Fun fact, if you watch my video, The Age of Valyria, you'd remember that I covered the Raynor and their exodus from Essos. Before settling in Dorne, Nymeria and her 1,000 ships tried to settle in Yin for a time, but soon left because of the constant attacks from Sothori. Also known as Brindlemen, they are the native inhabitants of Sothorios and are described as massively muscled creatures with long arms, sloped foreheads, and seem more hog-like than human. Nymeria herself even called Yin a city so evil that even the jungle will not enter. Maybe the original inhabitants of Yin were met with a fate similar to the doom of Valyria and either fled, were completely wiped out, or somehow turned into what we know today as a Sothori. Our next structure is less of a single structure and more of an entire city. Asshai, a mysterious port city in the far southeast area of Essos, was built almost entirely of black stone. Since the stone absorbs light, it adds to Asshai's dark and foreboding appearance. Even their streets are made of black stone. No one knows how Asshai originated. Ask any Asshai and they will tell you the same. What we do know, however, is that Asshai has thrived for centuries. What I'm about to say is speculation, but since even the Asshai don't know how Asshai came about, it makes me wonder if current-day inhabitants are simply descendants of people who found the structures already standing and were able to successfully settle the area. Now, other than the oily black stone, there is what's described as a fused black stone that has been incorporated into modern-day structures as well. Very similar to the oily black stone, Maester Theron speculates there's a connection between both types of stone. Now, let's talk about the structures with fused black stone. Hightower, a building found in Old Town, sits atop a fortress of fused black stone. Again, another blackstone structure with unknown origins. However, many maesters do have a few theories on who built it. Since it looks similar to the walls of Atlantis, Maester Jellicoe and Septon Barth both speculate it was made by Valyrians that arrived to Westeros before the arrival of the first men. Though there is no evidence that Valyrians came to Westeros, Archmaester Quillen believes the fortress is made by the maze makers of Lorith, and Maester Theron believes it was created by the Deep Ones since it holds similarities to the Sea Stone chair. And for the final structure we'll be coming today, it gets very little airtime compared to the other parts of A Song of Ice and Fire. The 5 Forts of Yi Ti. Built from fused black stones, these walls are said to be close to 1,000 feet high. Located along the northeastern borders of Yi Ti, they are situated between the Bleeding Sea and the Mountain of the Morn. Just as elusive as the other structures, the origins of these structures are truly unknown. Some think it was built by the Valyrians, but currently there are no records of Valyrians in this area of Essos. So some think the walls were built by the Pearl Empire of the Great Empire from the Dawn, who used the structure to defend against the Lion of Night, but this hasn't been confirmed. Currently, the Gold Empire uses these forts to guard against raiders from the Grey Waste. Each fort can house about 10,000 men. Hey friends, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, it's very curious how far stretching the Blackstone is in Planeteros. It really makes me wonder if in A Song of Ice and Fire there was an ancient and technologically advanced civilization that inhabited Westeros, spanning across all the known world. If this is the case, what the heck happened to them? Did they experience their own doom? Were they all killed during the battle against the Lion of Night? Let me know what you think below. I'm looking forward to finding out. So, was it ancient aliens? Who knows? But George R.R. Martin keeps on reiterating the fact that Game of Thrones is, in fact, a sci-fi book series, so we'll see. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day.